called Gimpy, as a comic book villain.
Yo soy el Cristo del Gimpia.
Yeah.
Y tú eres Zen Burro.
Soy un burro de los campos.
Bienvenido a nuestro stream. Today we're going to talk about Stoicism.
What?
What were you going to say?
I forgot, but that was funny.
Yeah. I just had to channel my inner Bumblebee guy from The Simpsons.
Yeah, that's who I was reminded of.
Ay caramba! So today we're going to pick up with chapter 24 of the Enchiridion of Epictetus. Just to remind people, we are reading the new A.A. Long translation if you're interested in picking it up. You can find it on Amazon in a series called Ancient Wisdom for Modern Readers, and it's part of a series, and it's titled How to Be Free.
Yeah.
So for people new to Stoicism, how would you characterize the philosophias?
It's interesting because I always have a different way of interpreting it.
And that's why I keep asking you.
Yeah, it's like a philosophy of I was going to say self-determination, and what I mean by that is figuring out what you really value, and Stoicism offers ways for you to help you achieve that. And and if you know anything about ancient Greek philosophy or ancient Greek culture, the Greeks back then were interested in how the order of the universe mattered. Like, if you could align yourself that way, you would be able to achieve, they call it eudaimonia, and it used to be translated as happiness, but more accurately, people think of it as flourishing, like living your best self, basically.
Yeah, it's specifically human flourishing.
Yeah, like Stoicism has no preconceptions about, saving your soul or obeying a god, except the god of your own mind, the intellect. They identify the intellect with reason and divine order.
So, a lot of people wrongly make comparisons between Stoicism and Objectivism.
Yeah.
Which otherwise is known as Ayn Rand philosophy. The biggest difference between Stoicism and Ayn Rand is that Ayn Rand thoroughly believed that humans only act in self-interest, and she thought, and later objectivists reinforced the idea that the only reason we do anything nice for people is because it makes us feel good. Literally, that's how she summarized it in Ayn Rand. And Stoicism is different in that, yes, it's self-interested, like we were talking about, in a way, because it puts the focus on you, your behavior, and the cultivation and protection of your own virtue.
Yeah.
Virtue as defined by the four cardinal virtues together. But it doesn't necessarily, it has never said anything about pro-social behavior being a sole consequence of feeling good. In fact, I think it would say that that's complete nonsense from that point of view.
Yeah.
All right, so with that being said, let us switch over to our Epictetus. By the way, I really don't like the viewer counter in the upper left corner. I wish I could turn it off. It's distracting. I don't like it. Like at all. All right. Should I go first, or do you want to?
I'll go first.
I guess so.
All right. Don't let yourself be worried by thinking my life is going to be without honor and I'll be a nobody everywhere. If lack of honor is something bad, as it is, No one but yourself could be responsible any more than others could put you in a shameful position. You don't really think it's your job to secure public office, do you? Or be invited to a banquet? Of course not. How then is this still a lack of honor? And how will you be a nobody everywhere, since you need to be somebody only in the things that are up to you? In them, you can be a top person. But your friends will lack support. What do you mean by lack support? They won't get a cash handout from you, and you won't make them Roman citizens. But who told you that these things are up to us and not the business of other people? Who can give to another what he doesn't have himself? Get money then, someone says, so we can have it too. If I can get it and preserve my honor and integrity and moral principles, show me the way and I will get it. But if you are asking me to lose the good things that are mine just for you to acquire things that are not good, you can see how unfair you are and how ungenerous. What would you rather have, money or a trustworthy and honorable friend? Help me rather to maintain this character, and do not ask me to do the very things that will make me lose it. But my country, someone says, will lack such support as I could have given. I repeat the question of what support you have in your mind. Your country will not have colonnades or public baths because of you. But what does that mean? Your country does not have shoes because of the blacksmith, or weapons because of the cobbler. It is enough if each person performs his own job. And if you were to supply your country with another trustworthy and honorable citizen, would you not be doing it a benefit? Yes, I would. So you yourself would be of no benefit to your community. What position then will I hold in it? Whichever one you can have, and still preserve your trustworthy and honorable character. But if you lose this character in wanting to benefit your country, and you end up dishonorable and untrustworthy, what benefit would you be?
Is there anything you want to say about that one? Because that one's pretty lengthy.
This is like questioning why you would want something like public office, and like why it's not really worth trying to get it through underhanded means, because of you basically betray your integrity.
Honestly, dude, that's how I feel about politics in general these days.
Yeah.
Because, I've talked to people who've held local public office,
mm-hmm.
and it seems to be if they don't play the game and they just go by their own principles, they feel really ineffective and defeated a lot of the time, even though that's the reason they were elected in the first place.
Right.
So
all the backstabbing games and all that crap.
All the smearing and the infighting and
right. I think we call that Machiavellism, but even Machiavelli himself was a decent guy from what I read.
Yeah, he was just a lot like Robert Greene. Like, I kind of take the Prince as Machiavelli's own observation on the nature of power.
Yeah.
And how it's acquired and how it's held, if that's what you want.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Not necessarily that he was advocating that's what we should do. He'll use words like should, but like I look at him as a social historian, more or less.
Yeah.
If someone has been placed ahead of you at a banquet, or in the reception line, or in being called on as a consultant, you should be pleased that he got to do these things if they are good. But if they are bad, don't be upset that you didn't get them. Keep in mind that you cannot expect an equal share of things that are not up to us without doing some of the same things others have done. If you don't hang out at someone's door or go around with him or flatter him, how can you have the same share of his regard as the person who does these things? If you don't pay the price these things are sold at and want to get them for free, you would be unfair and greedy. Let me see if there's more to that one. Oh, there is. Okay. What's the cost of lettuces? A bowl, maybe? I don't know what that means, but okay.
Maybe it's a currency.
An obol? 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 Oburu! If someone pays an obol and gets lettuces, don't think you have less than he has. While he has the lettuces, you have the unspent monies. I'm just gonna...
Yeah.
It's just the... Wait. Hold on. This thing doesn't scroll smoothly. It's the same in the cases we are considering. You were not invited to someone's dinner party. That's because you didn't pay the host the price of the dinner. He sells it for flattery, for getting attention. Pay the price it's sold for, then if you think it's worth it. But if you want to get it without paying up, you are being greedy and stupid. Do you have nothing instead of the dinner? Of course you do. You don't have to flatter a man you didn't want to flatter or to deal with the crowd around his door. You know, the funny thing is, I turned smooth scrolling on in the Kindle app, but it doesn't seem to be that good.
It doesn't look like it.
Nope. I thought it was my fault because it skips between pages. That's why I got confused. 26, right?
Yeah.
Anything you want to say about the thingy?
I don't know. This one's pretty explanatory, unless you got something.
Dude, it's like I don't really understand. I mean, I used to because I've been jealous, but I don't really understand jealousy.
Yeah.
Because like what I've kind of realized is like, why am I going to be jealous that somebody has something I don't when they did something completely different than what I'm doing to get what they have?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, that's because Epictetus basically said that in a different context.
Mm-hmm.
But like, rather than saying if you want something without paying the price, you're being stupid and greedy, like, I would just ask the question, like, is what they have really worth what they did to get it?
Yeah.
And if you think that's the case, then go do that. If not, then, you know, what is more important to you? I guess I would have asked more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's basically all I would
add. All right.
Take a tease.
Nature's purpose can be learned from situations that we all agree about. When, for instance, someone else's slave breaks his master's drinking cup, one is instantly ready to say, it's just an accident. So when your own cup gets broken, acknowledge that you should be just the way you were when that happened to the other person's cup. Now apply this rule to more serious things. When someone's child or wife dies, it's normal to say, that's just life. Yet whenever it's one's own family member who dies, the immediate response is, alas, and poor me. We should remember how we feel when we hear this happening to other people.
Epictetus said this earlier on, but with a more like first-person example when he talked about, you know, when you kiss your wife or you kiss your child.
Yeah.
Remember that one day they'll be gone, or one day you'll die.
Yep.
And he's like, there's no harm in that. And I think, like, basically, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't like Kant, right? But it kind of reminds me of, like, the ethical paradigm Kant tried to set up using the categorical imperative.
Yeah.
Because this seems to be against double standards.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And Kant was all about act only according to that maxim, which at the same time can be made into universal law.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool to see echoes of that, like hundreds of years before, like damn near like 1.8 millennia before Kant.
Yeah, it makes you really think maybe there is something kind of universal in our species, and we just need to figure out what the hell it is.
And in the Old Testament, it said nothing. There is nothing new under the sun. I think that was in the Book of Psalms, right?
I found it in Ecclesiastes.
Oh, that works too. Okay. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I used to read that a lot.
I'm retired and shit.
It's funny. One of my friends, we were talking about the Bible yesterday.
That is funny. Where are you guys talking about?
She was just. It was interesting. I don't know. This could be kind of related to the Stoicism thing.
Go for it.
So, indulge me a little bit if you don't mind.
What do you mean if I don't mind? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, her and I were talking, and she talked about how she took basically a Bible course in college, like you and I did.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how interesting it was for her to read it as history and literature because she was raised by atheist parents, and they really emphasized like science and stuff. Like her earliest memories are about science things. And she was basically telling me, because she has a tattoo with like the DNA genome and the stars among it and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
So she basically said, yeah, science is my religion, but like I don't hate other religions. It's just, you know, it's like finding it interesting to read a text that a lot of people take for granted as like, I don't know, a recording of miracles or like moral lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like I don't know. What do you think about what I just said?
I mean, yeah. I agree. I mean, I don't know if I would personally say science is my religion, because the thing to me, religion to me has the connotation of being fixed.
Right.
Right? And science to me inherently, like if you do that, you're making it increasingly dogmatic, and it won't hold up that way. But I don't think she's looking at it that way. But that's
no.
That's how I see it. Like religion to me is kind of an auto-fixed thing.
Yeah.
And that's the only part where like my personal view is different. But like, to kind of expand on her point, I mean, you know, I was raised exactly the opposite of an atheist. I was raised in like a pretty staunch Catholic conservative home.
Right.
And I'm now neither really Catholic nor conservative. And one of the things one of the conclusions I came to is that there's no reason for me, if my family is watching this, I'm going to get, especially the ones from, not in Sacramento.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm going to get a lot of messages. But, like, after a while, I mean, personally, I don't like religion at all anymore.
Yeah.
Like, as people use it. That being said, the Bible itself is not necessarily like a bad thing. I learned to look at it as an anthology of cultural literature.
Yeah.
And that cultural literature has had such an impact on Western thought in general that you cannot get away from its significance.
Yep.
Right? And I think that in order to really understand the Western mode of thinking, you kind of need to understand the Bible.
Yeah.
Whether you believe in it or not, as like a source of the tenets of a specific religion or another.
Right.
And so I think it's important for people to understand, but I also think it's important that I'm just going to say this. I think it's important for Christianity to realize that it doesn't have a monopoly on what it thinks the truth is.
Yeah.
Because whether monotheistic religions like it or not, we live in a pluralistic society, and they like to look at the downfall of Rome and be like, that's why pluralism doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't pluralism that destroyed the Roman Empire. It was economic and military forces that actually led to the downfall of the Roman Empire, not religious ones.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah.
That was relevant, right?
Yeah, I think so. I remember where I was going with my point, though.
Oh, go ahead.
So yeah, thanks. But it's like the science view is probably the closest to the Stoic view. Or rather the ancient Greek philosophical view. Because, like, you know, Plato's offspring, Aristotle's school of thought, the Stoics, who else was around? The skeptics.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, they all believed there was some type of rational order. It's just they had different views of how to realize it or how to apply it.
It made me laugh because I thought of the Pythagoreans while you were talking.
Oh yeah, the Pythagoreans. Yeah, you could consider them.
And they were kind of nuts. That's why it made me laugh.
Right. I mean, stuff like that existed back then too.
Cynics, skeptics, monism, a la Heraclitus.
Yeah, so I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we're in a golden age of discovery in terms of like science.
Yeah.
However, how it's being used sometimes, I have questions. Like, you know, the obsession with having younger looking skin as you age and all that. Yeah, I mean, comes with the territory. Like, people are going to use science for the benefit of all, some for their own personal benefit.
Yeah.
Just depends on who's using it. It's not bad in itself.
Same thing with money, right? Like, some people use it for their own benefit, and some people use it to benefit themselves and others.
Yeah, so I mean, we're all human, and yeah.
This is cool because I can actually read this through the screen.
Yeah, and I think this particular philosophy can help you better live your life today.
Yeah. And like the one thing that what you said reminded me of is Stoics had more certainty about their view of the cosmos than we currently do.
Right.
Because, you know, they didn't really have the same conceptions. They used the word atoms, but atoms didn't mean the same thing.
Right.
So, like, now when we look at the subatomic world and we say there's randomness, therefore determinism can't be real because there don't seem to be any rules that we can find that govern this stuff completely without an element that's left up to chance, right?
Right.
The Stoics didn't see the world that way. They were determinists, but I guess you could say they were soft determinists, right?
Right.
And so, like, that's the one area where people who are trying to do, like, ancient Stoicism, traditional Stoicism in the modern world tend to, like, butt heads with what I'm going to call the new Stoa. I don't know.
Right.
And then some people just forego physics altogether, but I don't know how I feel about that because when you read the ancients, it's pretty clear that whatever their view of the cosmos was, it intimately informed how they approached ethics. So I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
I go back and forth on that a lot. So for my third grade passage right here, no target is set up simply to be missed. And in the same way, Nothing that occurs in the world is bad in its own nature, as such. That was my text-to-speech voice.
Yeah.
How'd you like that?
Yeah, that was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, like, I mean, you literally just said this before. Like, there's nothing bad really in and of itself,
Right.
necessarily, right? But it's what you do with it. Like, even violence, to an extent, you can make that argument. Like, so murder is bad, but self-defense is arguably good, right?
Yeah.
And I say arguably because court.
Mm-hmm.
But on a personal level, self-defense good, murder bad.
Right. I mean, some Stoics back then were officers, generals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think of it as like they take no pleasure in killing or glory. It's just, you got to defend your country or you got to do your part.
Yeah, like the thing I have problems with is like violence in the name of country, but like,
Yeah, I don't know. It's complex. Like, I'm willing to bet, like, one of the things we lost with the Stoic literature is maybe there were people in the army back then who had tried to interpret it through a Stoic lens, like the idea of war or defending your nation or killing in self-defense.
I'm almost sure there had to be some of what we would have considered outliers in the philosophy that didn't believe in violence,
Right. Like pacifists who were completely against it.
Or, people that had a lot of exceptions, like, unless it was absolutely necessary.
Right.
Like, we don't know that, so, some people would accuse us of saying, "Oh, that's a fallacy of appeal to ignorance," but it's the truth. We don't know. So I can't, like, I'm not going to sit here and make pronouncements about what the Stoics would have thought.
Right. We can just conjecture.
That's all it is conjecture.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are people trying to construct a modern Stoic ethics based on, like, our modern conditions in the literature we do have, but, like, that's an ongoing project.
Yeah.
And even then, it's not necessarily saying, like, this is definitively what the Stoics would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
Just an attempt to reconstruct and project Stoic philosophy into the future in contemporary times and shit.
Yeah.
Alright, your turn.
If someone in the street were entrusted with your body, you would be furious. Yet you entrust your mind to anyone around who happens to insult you, and allow it to be troubled and confused. Aren't you ashamed of that?
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Fucking don't let your mind be consumed by others' opinions. Or judged, I should say.
He's also talking about anger.
Yeah.
And, I'm being honest right now, this is something I am currently not doing that great at. So what do? I end up working out, and I end up burning like 1,000 calories a day, and then I'm sore the next day, and but it's the only way I can remotely keep any of it in check. So it is what it is. I mean, my purpose with this, talking about this stuff, isn't to say I'm better than people or I have anything figured out, man. Like, I struggle with this crap too.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we talk about this stuff all the time, and I know you struggle with things.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to say because we're sitting up here reading this, like we understand all. We don't. We fail to apply it. In certain occasions, we struggle with specific things.
Yeah.
This one is a foot long sub sandwich right here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. In every undertaking, examine its antecedents and their consequences, and only then proceed on to the act itself. If you don't do that, you will start enthusiastically because you have not thought about any of the stages. And then when difficulties appear, you will give up and be put to shame. I remember this from a previous reading of Epictetus. Do you want to win the Olympics? Yeah, this is straight out of the discourses. I do too, of course, because it is a splendid thing. But examine the project from start to finish, and then only go in for it after that. Oh, that's very awkward to my English. Hold on. You must train, keep a strict diet, stay off pastries, and then submit to regular exercise regime every day, summer or winter. Drink no cold water and no wine except at appropriate times. In other words, you have to surrender yourself to the trainer just as you would a doctor. Then in the actual contest, you have to dig in alongside the other contestants. Wait, hold on. Wait, my eyes. Alongside the actual contestant. Oh, and perhaps dislocate your hand or twist your ankle or swallow a lot of sand or get flogged. They used to hit you. And with all of this, lose the fight. When you have thought about all this, go and compete if you still want to. But if you don't think first, it will be like acting like children who play at wrestling for a while, then at gladiators, then at trumpeters, and then at stage performers. That's what you are like too. Hold on. Now an athlete, next a gladiator, then an orator, now a philosopher. But nothing in yourself as a whole. You are like a monkey mimicking whatever you see. As one thing after another takes your fancy, you haven't pursued anything with due consideration or after thorough. Where am I at? Pursued anything with due consideration or after thorough review. You mess about and don't put your heart into things. It's the way some people who have seen a philosopher and heard one speak like Euphrates, though no one can really speak like him. You want to go in for philosophy themselves. Dear man, think first about whether about what thank you what the thing is like, and then study your own nature to see whether you are up to it. Do you really want to compete in the pentathlon or the wrestling? If so, you had better study your arms and your thighs and your hips. People differ in what they are naturally suited to. How much this? Okay, hold on. Do you suppose that you can go in for philosophy and eat and drink as you do now, or get angry and irritated in the same way? You're going to have to go without sleep, work really hard, stay away from friends and family, be disrespected by a young slave, get mocked by people in the street, and come off worse in rank, office, or courtroom, everywhere in fact. Think about all this, and then see whether you want to exchange it for calm, freedom, and tranquility. If not, don't go near philosophy. Don't be like children, playing first at a philosopher, and after that a tax collector, and then an orator, and then an imperial officer. These professions don't match. You have to be one person, either good or bad. You have to work either on your commanding faculty or on external things. Hold on. Oh.
What?
It's not going anywhere.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Oh, damn.
Hold on. Really? It's not. There it is. Um, um, Inner or outer should be the focus of your effort, which means adopting the role of either a philosopher or an ordinary person. Yeah, I have no idea why it wouldn't let me scroll, but it was stuck for a second.
Load.
Maybe. It seems to load in chunks, so that's probably accurate. So, like, man, you know, it took me a long time not to be offended by this passage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Because I rather enjoy being a jack of all trades. But as I have gotten older, I've kind of come to the realization that, like, I'm really not suited to pick one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't think that I should pick a bunch of really disparate things.
Right.
But, like, my goal now has been to try to pick things that fit well together. Like, streaming about this stuff, studying and streaming, like, disability things, and, you know, the coaching stuff that I'm studying to, like, start my own coaching business, and then going to school for disability studies. To me, these things are linked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's gonna leave out a lot of stuff that I like to do, but there's no reason I can't have those things as, like, things that I still do, like, for myself.
Right.
I don't need to, like, make a life out of doing all of those things for money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because, like, Epictetus mentioned a bunch of different professions, and the way that I took it, he literally said none of these professions go together.
Right.
Like, they're all really different things, but I think even in, like, the ancient world, like, there must have been people who picked clusters of related things and made careers out of that.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine people who were well versed in, like, history, philosophy, geometry, and stuff. What did they do? They became tutors.
Right.
And they taught those things to, like, nobles and whatnots.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, there's a way, and I'm gonna figure it out. Anything you want to add to that one? Or do you have a different point of view on it, or whatever? Oh, did I even... Hold on. Oh, dude, I'll never get used to that. Okay.
No, not really. You pretty much summed up what I was gonna say.
Cool.
Basically, don't do anything half-assed, as I like to think about this passage.
I'm not gonna lie, dude, when you tell people that, they don't like it.
Yeah, I know. Like, even here, Epictetus is saying, hey, if you're not gonna practice philosophy and just pursue things external to you, at least do it well. But don't try to, like, split yourself, like, oh yeah, fucking philosophy, and then the other half is like, but I really want, I don't know, we'll talk about wealth or office.
Yeah.
But he's saying, like, don't try to, like, basically become both things, because it's not going to happen.
I mean, right. I mean, so, like, taking the philosophy in and then using it to better what you're doing is not the same as, like, devoting your life to the way of a philosopher either.
Right.
Right? Because, like, I mean, we've seen this in recent times with athletic coaches using Stoic principles to help their athletes reach higher levels of performance.
Right.
Because it teaches mental endurance, and where people get most often messed up is in the mind games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
It's your turn.
Appropriate actions are largely set by our social relationships. In the case of one's father, this involves looking after him letting him have his way in everything, and not making a fuss if he is abusive or violent. But what if he's a bad father? Do you think you have a natural affinity for only to a good father? No, just to a father. Suppose your brother treats you badly. In that case, maintain your fraternal relationship to him. Don't think about why he behaves that way, but about what you need to do to keep your will in harmony with nature. No one else, in fact, will harm you without your consent. You will be harmed only when you think you are being harmed. So make a habit of studying your social relationships with neighbors, citizens, or army officers, and then you will discover the appropriate thing to do.
And like, that kind of reminds me of like something you said, like, Epictetus was never advocating just putting yourself in like shitty positions.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of proving your own endurance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of like, if you're sick, why would you go out of your way to make yourself sicker, knowing that it's not like doing you any good?
Right.
Yeah. Like, and I think Marcus Aurelius is a good example of that, because like, at least the way I understand it, like, I think we both read about this, like, he was always frail, but like at one point he was so frail that people just were wondering, like, how the hell is this guy gonna lead an army?
Yeah.
And so he, knowing that that's what people thought of him, as he prepared to become emperor, he like made himself as stronger to the extent that he could.
Yeah.
And then like after he led his first campaign, people were like, "Oh, this dude is a leader."
Yeah.
Like, all right then. And like, he's pretty well remembered.
Mm-hmm.
Even by critics, which is,
yeah.
Because even they'll be like, "Oh yeah, he was kind of this," but then there were admirable qualities like these, and then the list of those are usually longer than his critiques.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know. To me, that says a lot. Not that I think that's why he did it, but
Mm-hmm.
Where am I? I'm just trying to see where I'm going to meet. Okay. The essence of reverence concerning the gods is, first, to hold correct beliefs concerning their existence and their fine and just admiration of the universe.
Administration.
Or did I say admiration?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant administration, sorry. Of the universe. And second, to position yourself, to obey them and accept whatever happens, complying with it willingly. On the understanding that what comes to pass has been ordained by their most excellent decision. In this way, you will never find fault with the gods, nor will you charge them with neglect, but such reverence is not possible unless you remove goodness and badness from the things not up to us, and ascribe it only to the things that are up to us. For if you judge any of those other things to be good or bad, whenever you fail to get what you want and encounter what you don't want, you will be bound to blame the gods and hate them for being responsible. It is every creature's nature, you see, to shun things that look harmful or cause harm, and to admire and pursue things that are beneficial or bring benefit. I think that's kind of redundant. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you think you are being injured, you can no more enjoy what seems to be injuring you than you can enjoy the injury itself. Even fathers are maligned by their sons when they... Give me a second. Deprive them of the things that they think are good. And it was this, the belief... Okay, it's being weird. There we go. That holding exclusive power is good, that created hostility between Eteocles and Polynices?
I guess.
I don't know who those are. For the same reason, farmers malign the gods, and sailors do so too, and merchants, and men who have lost their wives and children. Wherever people's interest lies, that's also the side of their reverence. If you are careful then to focus your desires and aversions where you should, you will be equally careful about reverence. Nevertheless, it is fitting for everyone to perform religious rituals and make customary offerings as long as they act with a pure heart, not mechanically or carelessly, and not meanly or extravagantly. This is one of those cases where I clearly see Christianity borrowing from Stoicism.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this language is in the New Testament.
Uh-huh. You know, that stuff was composed in Greek.
Yeah.
Right? If I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, it was composed in Koine Greek rather than classical Greek, which is Epictetus spoke in Koine Greek, if I recall.
Yeah, so we see Epictetus's ghost in the New Testament. I know what you mean because I can recall some passages.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting convergence of history and also an example of plagiarism. Or, excuse me, inspiration.
No. Plagiarismos. Because, like, you know, they credited everything to God and to other apostles and shit.
Yeah.
When, I don't know, the historical timeline and the intersections of those things would suggest that it was intentional borrowing from other sources.
Yeah.
Specifically when you get down to people like Paul.
Mm-hmm.
There is some evidence to suggest that he would have been familiar with the Stoic school.
Yeah.
Even though he refuted what we would consider their metaphysics, he seemed to think that they had an inherent quality about them, a trust in the unfolding of events that was very much what he ended up espousing in later letters.
Yeah.
So make of that what you will. If you want to yell at me, you're going to be yelling at yourself.
Mm-hmm. But there were a couple other things I wanted to say on this passage.
Go for it, then.
Oh, are you laughing at me?
Yeah. On the inside.
Huh?
On the inside.
Yeah. He does make some insightful views of human nature about our self-interest. Because also what our self-interest is inclined toward, like you said, it's a side of our reverence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and reverence is an interesting word because I don't think today when I speak to people, I don't think people really realize what that word means. Like,
they don't.
Yeah, I mean, we're like in an age where science has answered a lot of questions in terms of like physical stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like nutrition, for example. And it's like I don't know, here, like, Epictetus is saying, like, if you are going to make rituals and customary offerings, do it with a pure heart. But don't do it out of, like, custom or habit.
Yeah, actually, Jesus said the same thing.
Yeah.
He said, you know, he was like, he straight up said, when you do rituals, do them basically with intent and with purity. And when you pray, don't do it with trumpets and fanfare like the hypocrites, but instead. And then he doled out the the Lord's Prayer or the Our Father, depending on,
Yeah. It also makes me think of certain things we do every day.
Like what?
Yeah, like we'll take journaling, for example. Like, let's say you journal every day, but then there comes a day where you don't journal, and it's because I've had this happen to me. Because like either there's not a lot going on up here, because sometimes journaling is recommended for people who just have a lot of anxious thoughts going through their head. I remember an interview with I watched an interview with Ryan Holiday and this writer. I don't remember his name, but I can look it up later. But it was, I clicked on it because it says, oh, interviews about Stoicism and creativity. And, we don't have a lot of information about art from the Stoics, from what I recall.
We don't.
Yeah, but the dude Ryan Holiday was interviewing said he does journal, and he's like, yeah, the way I do journaling, it's like a type of, like, just free writing, like writing whatever comes to mind. He said, like, for me, it helps because it helps me realize, like, what I'm actually feeling or thinking in all that word vomit, as he put it.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I was thinking, like, made me think, like, sometimes I don't have a lot up here, but then I might just write a word or two and then that's it.
Really?
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I really need to get back on it, because let's just say I don't see the things that are aggravating me changing soon enough to make a difference.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is I haven't journaled, like, consistently every day, but it's like it happens when I actually do have something I want to put in it. Yeah. What's interesting, though, that I discovered, and then I don't understand why I just stopped doing it, was there was a time where I did do writing, like, I guess word, as you could call it.
Yeah.
Like that writer was saying, but and I started doing it as like an exercise and just going through ideas. Like sometimes stories would just pop out of me. Like, I would structure it like a story. I wasn't actually writing about, like, oh, what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, or recording the events of the day, as some people use journaling for.
Right.
For me, it was just a way to explore certain ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's without the intention of making a story.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why this passage interests me, because like, do it as long as you do it with a pure heart, not mechanically or carelessly. And then if you read the history of other writers who've had habits like that, some writers wrote every day, others really didn't. Some had strange rituals, but it would get them into the mode of writing. Like, I remember reading one writer back during the 17 or 1800s who would have like a drawer of rotted fruit, and the aromas of those fruits, he would sniff them, and then it would just cause him to be in that mode of writing, because I don't know, some people are just weird like that.
Yeah, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, but he wrote a lot of things.
I mean, I guess if it works, cool. But like, man, I don't want to sniff things that smell like shite to write.
Yeah, or one writer I read who would like in his writing room, he would just cover the windows with paper and stuff. I don't know. Like I said, some writers are really strange people.
Yeah.
But they somehow make life work for them.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, when I think about those examples, like, it keeps me from thinking of Stoicism as, like, a completely cold philosophy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because I was thinking the same
easy
thing.
For people to, you know, criticize it.
That, yeah. Because, like, the reason I mentioned, like, me needing to get back on journaling, even if for a while it is kind of mechanical.
Yeah.
Is in part because, for me, the mechanical nature of it prevents me from compartmentalizing my emotions until they come out in destructive ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, on days where I really have nothing to say, it's probably better if I don't, because also forcing myself to journal has actually kept me from journaling in the long run. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
When did you want to end the reading stuff?
Oh yeah. Where are we?
32.
Yeah, it's getting to that time.
Did you just want to finish 32 and call it good?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I forgot whose turn it is.
Yeah, it's my turn.
Okay.
Whenever you have your fortune taken, keep in mind that you don't know precisely what's going to happen. That's why you came to consult the fortune teller. But if you are really a philosopher, you already know the sort of thing it is. For if it is one of the things not up to us, it must absolutely be neither good nor bad. So don't project your desire or aversion onto the fortune teller, otherwise you will come to him in great anxiety. But go in the understanding that every outcome is indifferent, nothing that bears on you except as an opportunity, whatever it is, excellent use, and with no one to get in your way. Go to the gods then as your advisors, and go confidently. And next, when you have been given some advice, keep in mind whom you have taken as your advisors, and whom you will be ignoring if you don't heed them. Proceed to fortune-telling in the way Socrates judged to be right for handling situations, where the whole point of the inquiry is to learn what's going to happen, and where neither reason nor any other procedure can tell you what you are facing. And so, when there is a need for you to put yourself at risk on behalf of a friend or your country, those are not topics to consult a fortune teller about. For even if the fortune teller reports that the omens are inauspicious, what is clearly forecast is no more than death or bodily injury or exile. But reason requires that even under these circumstances, you should support your friend and run risks for your country. So pay attention to the great fortune teller, Pythian Apollo. He threw out of the temple the man who gave no help to his friend when he was being killed.
Yeah. It's weird, right? Because, because, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit on this stream.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this a little bit on YouTube, but I don't know if we've actually had the discussion about tarot on stream.
I don't think so.
I think it was YouTube, huh?
Yeah, I believe.
In a video, yeah. So, like, I have, like, you know, some personal experience with what most people consider fortune telling, although I don't really look at it that way.
Yeah.
So I used to read tarot cards for people just because I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, that's how we met. Once upon a time.
Yeah. Dude, it's been a long time now.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing is, like, people when something takes a certain form, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, people automatically make assumptions about what it is.
Yeah.
And so for me, even in the situation that Epictetus is describing here, um, I think the value in what most people would consider fortune telling lies in the conversation between, like, the reader and the person asking the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't look at it as predictive. In
Yeah.
fact, I would argue that Epictetus is saying that it's not predictive. But I think the value in it only lies in its ability to help you prepare for a situation you might not have thought of.
Yeah.
I would never say that, like, uh, this is what's gonna happen. Like, I never actually did. I spent a lot of time asking questions, and then being like, well, these are the things that, like, I see as being the most likely things that are in play in this type of situation.
Right.
And, like, if I'm telling you things that you already know, then cool, you're on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything I said sort of blindsided you, but then you suddenly realize that it's like a possibility that you should have prepared for, like, good, because you're not the situation hasn't arrived at your door yet, and there's still time.
Yeah.
To prepare for that contingency, and that's where I think the value is. Like, helping people see a situation from a different perspective.
Right.
Like, and I've talked about this before. I look at it more like when you look at the cards. I mean, to me, you're supposed to, like, interpret them in terms of, like, archetypes.
Yeah.
Kind of like what those archetypes embody, and, like, how those archetypes sort of play off of each other, and from that, a different picture of the things you might be dealing with emerge over the course of the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, people are like, oh, there is somebody in my life that I thought of while we were talking about this. Maybe
Right.
I should avoid that person. Maybe I should consider minimizing contact, or maybe, like, I should reevaluate my relationship in a more positive way.
Yep.
Or whatever. Like, or, or maybe it is time for a career change, or whatever it happens to be about.
Yeah.
Because usually people are already thinking about this stuff. I'm just, like, trying to get them to focus on something.
Yeah.
That's already in there. It's not magic, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never looked at it that way. I didn't, people do, but, like, yeah. And, like, that's all it should ever be. If you substitute someone else's judgment for your own, then no matter what you do, like, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
And, like, if you're substituting someone else's judgment for your own, you're basically leaving the outcome of the situation entirely to luck. Not for luck, because you're not even involving yourself at that point.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's relevant, because, like, I think that's what Socrates was talking about, because I remember when he talked about, visiting the oracle at Delphi.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it, man.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that was relatively smooth.
Yeah.
So for those of you who will watch this as a VOD later, or on YouTube as a archived video, our streams for the near future that we can see will be happening on Saturday rather than Sunday. The only reason this one happened on Sunday is literally because when we were talking about this, you meant Saturday, but literally said Sunday.
Yeah.
And then we were like, oh,
well, it's more like we're gonna alternate between the 2 days. Consider it every weekend.
So it depends on, like,
yeah,
what your schedule looks like. Okay. So it's gonna be either Saturday or Sunday, depending. I'm probably going to check with you by Thursday every week just to be sure for that week.
Yeah.
And then Thursday night is when I'll put up announcements in case people want to like actually ask questions, because I guess we know enough to answer some things.
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, until next week, dudes.
All right.
Remember, disability stream Wednesday, not Tuesday, because Tuesdays you have the day off and we're hanging out that day, and you're at the day off, you're whacking it in your own room.
No.
Yeah. It's all right. All right, dudes.
All right.
Going offline. See you later.